Liverpool coming from 2 goals down to tie it up at Anfield on Sunday afternoon and throw the title race wide open again. One of the games of the season. Hey, Carl, Duncan.
Absolutely. Up there in terms of drama, spectacle, great moments of high quality interspersed with hilarious moments of low quality. It's up there with Chelsea 2, Spurs 2 from the start of the season, Tuchel and Conte. Just a remarkable game of football. And I think we all made a bunch of involuntary noises in the final 10 minutes as Aaron Ramsdale went into God mode.
So Arsenal had gone 2 goals up in the first half through Gabriel Martinelli and then Jesus. But this game turned out to be as evenly divided as a Tete Solanke scarf, Duncan. What was the turnaround caused by?
Well, a lot of people have focused on the contretemps between Granit Xhaka and Trent Alexander-Arnold towards the end of the first half, which sounds a bit cliched, but it kind of is true. I mean, Arsenal were in complete control up until that point. And Granit Xhaka has obviously been incredible this season, has turned his Arsenal career around to such an extent. He's one of the best midfielders in the league, but he did get involved in a little bit of a shoving incident. And it is a bit correlation, causation, etc. But yeah, Liverpool did pull a goal back soon after. And I think that was the key moment, really, because 2-0 at half-time, I think Mikel Arteta would have set them up for the second half in a different way. And it turned into one of those classic second halves at Anfield where Liverpool just pour forward towards the Kop end. And it's ridiculous because they were so bad in the first half an hour. And it could have been another, it could have been 3-4 down. It was like, they were playing Real Madrid again, almost, other than scoring 2 early on. But as it turned out, as Carl said, it's one of the games of the season. I think 2-2 is probably the perfect scoreline for a game of the season. It's like, that is good. And and without Aaron Ramsdale at the end, it would have been a defeat. And I honestly, it sounds minor, but I do think a draw is okay. I think if they'd lost, that changes a lot more than... It's a bit like Liverpool, I guess, against Chelsea back in 13-14, obviously a little bit later in the season, but if they'd have drawn that game, it might have, been a slightly different storyline to actually losing. So, just an incredible game. Liverpool posting over 4 XG, and as we've said, Aaron Ramsdale pulling off not 1, not 2, maybe even 3 world-class saves towards the end.
Absolutely. What do you think, Carl? Do you see something that Klopp did to swing the momentum of this game, or was it Xhaka going in with his elbow on Trent and then Trent turning to the crowd, his blood up, and stirring them?
I think the stirring that Xhaka did helped Liverpool go for it before half-time. They started attacking with 3s and 4s in around Arsenal's box rather than 1s and 2s, which they did previously. Trent Alexander-Arnold's ball... We've spoken for ages about Trent Alexander-Arnold. He started this game, he's in this inverted role coming into midfield, and it wasn't really working. And then he began to find a couple more pockets of space towards the end of the first half, and then again towards the end of the second half. I think that was a big factor as well. His ball striking was phenomenal. His positioning defensively is the opposite of that. I think those might have been the differences. And I also think Arteta probably got his substitutions wrong. You can call me Harry Hindsight here, but the swaps he made just ceded a little bit too much territory in central midfield.
And it was all Liverpool in that second half. Extraordinary numbers regarding particularly Mo Salah's afternoon, Duncan.
Yeah, he had 10 shots, which is quite a lot. He had 20 touches in the box, which is the most of any player this season. And yet he'll probably still come out of the game disappointed because he missed another penalty. It's pretty rare for a player to put 1 wide in a season, but to put 2 is a bit of an issue. Yeah, and obviously he missed against Senegal in the qualifiers for the 2022 World Cup, which he seems to have completely lost his penalty mojo, really.
He's an interesting penalty taker in that statistically he is a good penalty taker, and yet there is a glitch, flaw, however you want to describe it. Considering how many penalties he has converted, he doesn't inspire you with the same confidence that other penalty takers do, and he probably should. It's a really curious record he's got, and maybe his penalty record is helped by the fact he's a left footer, and that made. But yeah, he's not he's not as good as his penalty record suggests, which I find odd.
He's always been a smash it down, not the middle, but sort of off middle sort of player, as opposed to say a Harry Kane who kind of hits the side netting every time, other than against France in certain World Cup games. But yeah, I mean, I think it's almost like Salah's thought, I need to start putting it in the corner more, and at Bournemouth and yesterday, it kind of put it into the corner of the stadium rather than goal.
Tim, what's your take on how the point sits with both teams from Liverpool's point of view after their abject performance in the opening spell? They still might feel frustrated after the number of chances they had and that missed penalty. From Arsenal's point of view, the way that, as Carl mentioned, they ceded territory to Liverpool spoke of a kind of lack of confidence that you really don't want going into a title run like the one they're facing.
It's an interesting dynamic because, you know, they're 2-0 up and you expect them to be gutted with a point, but Liverpool created 3 really good chances in stoppage time alone. I mean, nobody wanted that game to end. You just wanted another sort of 3-4 minutes because, yeah, Liverpool had those 3 chances. Then there was Saka at the other end as well. If Martinelli had played his pass right, he'd have been in. But I mean, it had Liverpool 4-3 Newcastle vibes for me. You know, if Liverpool go and score in the last minute stoppage time, you can just see Arteta, you know, slumping behind an advertising board like Kevin Keegan. It was just, I think, psychologically hugely important that they didn't lose that game, because the title race, you know, is still in their own hands. We know that the game on April 26th has been set up now for what could be a perfect occasion and a title shootout. But yeah, when Firmino's equaliser went in, a couple of the Arsenal players literally sank to their knees, and you can imagine, you know, if that equaliser has such a massive psychological impact, then a winner just would have been, you know, devastating.
Absolutely. What was the bizarrest bit, or the most memorable bit of the afternoon? Was it the assistant referee elbow on Andy Robertson, perhaps?
Yeah, maybe. It was very strange. Obviously, we don't really know the outcome of it yet, but and it's one of those incidents that's caught on a lot of cameras, but all very in the distance. So it's hard really to tell if Robertson did anything or kind of got in his face too much. But it definitely was an elbow-based movement from quite a muscular linesman.
Yeah.
Oh, he's absolutely stacked.
Yeah. Utterly bizarre. There was also a bit, I'd say, there's a good 10-minute section in the first half where one of the Sky Sports microphones is just a little bit too close to a very vocal and passionate Liverpool fan who's swearing profusely at the lack of control from Liverpool. So that also added that element of spice to the game, just hearing this very angry man call everyone a knobhead.
There was a notable lack of control from Liverpool in that first half. And as you were saying, Duncan, it did seem like they were heading for another one of those games. So from that point of view, I was going to say what a boost this could be for Klopp. But then to what end?
I mean, it kind of, both teams needed a win, really, which I think was the reason it was such a good second half. I mean, Liverpool, a draw doesn't really help them in the sort of semi-futile race for the top 4. And Arsenal obviously wanted the win, and as Tim pointed out, if Martinelli had played that ball better in the very last minute, yeah, it's a classic game. We obviously don't know the impact of it yet on the title race, and that will, I guess, kind of determine it a little bit. I mean, obviously the Liverpool Newcastle game that Tim mentioned is so decisive because we know what happened subsequently, But yeah, I mean, it was an absolutely tremendous game. And it's interesting as well, I think that, you know, Liverpool or Klopp's been criticised for keeping players on too long, you know, giving new contracts to players in their 30s, and yet Firmino is someone who is actually leaving. And in fits and starts this season, has probably played some of the best football that he has for a few years. And is obviously beloved of the Anfield crowd. So that was a nice moment for him to score that goal.
Arsenal, anyway, still without a victory at Anfield in, 11 seasons? Heading into 12. And 6 points ahead of Man City, who have both the game in hand and the encounter with Arsenal coming up at the Etihad. The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around. and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.